bet your last money it's all gonna be a stone gas, honey. I'm Don Cornelius, and as always in parting, we wish you love, peace, and...
Los Angeles, we've just learned that the original host of the television rock and roll and dance show, Soul Train, is dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
One was locked in one room and the other was in another room, tied up and bound. And the sister could hear her screaming, and there were wooden objects that she was sodomized with.
Did you know that Don Cornelius was much worse than you think? He wasn't just the smooth-talking host or a gatekeeper of black culture, a legend, or so we thought. But beneath that polish, there was control, ego, and, if the allegations are true, violence.
It was horrible, horrible. And as Playboy rules were, you couldn't call the police, you call the mansion, and Joe...
From a 2008 arrest for choking his wife 36 years younger, to restraining orders claiming emotional abuse in captivity, a darker truth hid behind the music. Like Diddy, Don Cornelius ran his empire with psychological control and fear.
We approached him, and we asked him to pay us, and he wouldn't pay us. And that kind of broke my heart a little bit. When we asked to get paid, he kicked us off the show.
What started as a dance show, some say it became a trap.
Anybody you can think of who is black, who works in television, and who owns the show and who has the title of executive producer, came after Soul Train.
In the 1970s and early 80s, one show stood out on television. It was called Soul Train. This show was created by Don Cornelius, a black man who wanted to give young black people a place to shine.
When you believe in things that you don't understand and you suffer.
Soul Train was more than just music and dancing. It was a stage where black culture, fashion, and pride were shown to the world. It was a place where people could see famous Motown singers, soul performers, funk bands, and later, hip-hop artists. It helped open the doors for many young black artists who had never been on TV before. This show gave them a chance to be seen and heard. Don Cornelius was the man behind it all. He always wore nice suits, walked tall, and spoke in a deep, calm voice.
Bet your last money it's all gonna be a stone gas, honey. I'm Don Cornelius, and as always in parting, we wish you love, peace, and...
He looked like a strong and proud businessman. Don didn't act like a clown or a joke. He wanted to show that a black man could be serious and successful. He talked with confidence and always made the show feel classy. People respected him. He ended each show with the same smooth line. You can bet your last money it's gonna be a stone gas, honey. It made people smile, and it became a part of the show's charm. But behind that smile and sharp suit, things were not always perfect. Years after his death, a shocking story came out. In a documentary series called Secrets of Playboy, a woman named PJ Maston made a serious accusation about him.
He had been in the club many times. Many people saw him, so they didn't have any fear at the time.
Maston was a former Playboy bunny who once worked at the Playboy Mansion. She said Don Cornelius did something very bad many years ago. Her story shocked many people who had only known him as a TV legend. Maston said she remembered Cornelius clearly because he was a VIP guest at the Playboy Mansion. VIP means he was an important person who got special treatment. Many women at the mansion knew who he was. He often came to parties and events and was treated with great respect. According to Maston, one night, two young sisters who had just started working at Playboy caught Cornelius' eye. He seemed interested in them and wanted to spend time with them. He invited them to a private area at the mansion where only special guests were allowed to go. After some time, he asked the sisters to come to his house for a party. Since he was famous and rich, the sisters probably felt honored and safe. The two sisters got into Cornelius's Rolls-Royce car, which was a very expensive and fancy vehicle. He drove them to his home, and after that, they were not seen for 3 days. People at the mansion began to worry. No one knew where they had gone. It was not like them to disappear without saying anything. Mastin said that when the sisters finally came back, they were in very bad condition. They were weak, hurt, and frightened. It was clear something terrible had happened. According to Mastin, the sisters had escaped from Cornelius's house after being locked up for days. They were found with bruises, cuts, and marks that showed they had been tied up and drugged. Mastin said the sisters told her a heartbreaking story. They said they had been held in separate rooms and could not help each other. One sister said she could hear the other one screaming in pain. It was a very scary and painful experience for both of them. They were not just physically hurt, but also emotionally broken. Mastin said it was like a nightmare come true. What made things worse was how Playboy handled the situation. Back then, Playboy had its own rules. The women were told not to go to the police. Instead, the mansion's private security team dealt with it. The women were also told not to tell the media or anyone outside the mansion. Playboy wanted to keep its VIP guests safe and protect the company's image.
It was horrible, horrible. And as Playboy rules were, you couldn't call the police, you call the mansion, and Joe...
Mastin said she was very upset by how Playboy ignored the sisters' suffering. She said Cornelius came back to the Playboy Club the next week as if nothing had happened. There was no investigation, no arrest, and no punishment. Mastin said she felt guilty for not speaking out at the time. She said she had wanted to help, but she was scared. She believed no one would take her seriously. She also knew that Playboy had the power to protect famous men, not the young women who worked there. So she stayed quiet for many years, even though it haunted her. After the Secrets of Playboy documentary aired, Don Cornelius' son, Tony Cornelius, spoke to the public. He said the story was not true. He claimed that Mastin was just spreading rumors. Tony said there was no proof to support what she said. He stood by his father and said he believed his father would never do such a thing. He said the story damaged his father's name without real evidence. It's important to understand that Don Cornelius was never officially charged with what Mastin claimed. The police never opened a case, so the story remains just an accusation with no legal action taken.
Security there was not about making sure these girls were safe. It was about making sure that the guests didn't do anything that Hefner would not have wanted them to do.
But Don Cornelius did have legal problems in his later years. In 2008, he was arrested at his home in Los Angeles. Police said he hurt his wife, Victoria Avila Cornelius, also known as Victoria Chapman. After he was arrested, Cornelius was allowed to go home after paying bail money. Later that year, in November 2008, he went to court. He was charged with hurting his wife and also trying to stop her from calling the police or telling anyone what happened. That made the situation more serious. In December 2008, Cornelius went back to court again. He told the judge that he was not guilty. He said he didn't do what he was being accused of. But soon after, his wife asked the court for protection. She got 2 restraining orders against him. A restraining order is something the court gives to protect a person. It means the person it is against must stay away and not contact the victim. Cornelius was ordered to stay away from his wife. Then, in March 2009, Cornelius changed his mind. He agreed to plead no contest. That means he did not admit he was guilty, but he also didn't try to fight the charges. Because of that, the judge put him on probation for 3 years. This meant he had to follow strict rules and could not break the law again or he would go to jail. Even though the story Mastin told about the 2 sisters is very disturbing, the truth was never proven in court. Don Cornelius was never punished for that specific story, but his arrest in 2008 shows that there were serious problems in his personal life. Don was the man behind one of the most famous dance shows ever made. He started the show, hosted it, and controlled almost everything that happened on it. He was very serious about how things were done. He wanted things to go his way, and if something happened that he didn't plan, he didn't like it. He treated Soul Train like it was his own kingdom, and nobody could mess with how he ran it. Even though the dancers helped make the show exciting and full of life, Don didn't always treat them fairly.
We approached him and we asked him to pay us, and he wouldn't pay us. And that kind of broke my heart a little bit.
He was very strict and didn't like surprises, especially on live TV. One of the dancers who made a big splash was Demita Jo Freeman. She didn't waste any time making a name for herself.
Me and Campbell, we were the first ones to start doing all this locking and kidding the floor, and I'm this girl going this way, he's going, it was just incredible.
Very early on, just a few episodes after she joined, she did something that shocked everyone. During a live performance by singer Joe Tex, something unexpected happened. Joe Tex reached out to Demita in the middle of his song and took her hand. Without thinking twice, she joined him on stage and danced while the cameras were rolling. This wasn't planned at all, and the audience loved it. But backstage, Don Cornelius was not happy. He was signaling for her to come down from the stage, but she ignored him and kept dancing. Joe Tex kept performing, and Demita just followed the moment. That bold move made Demita stand out. It was clear she was different. While most dancers followed a set routine and stayed in line, Demita danced with freedom and confidence. She didn't wait for permission. She made her own choices right there on live television. That kind of raw, natural energy couldn't be faked. People watching at home could feel it. She looked like she belonged on that stage, like she wasn't just part of the show, she was the show. Her dancing wasn't just steps, it was a feeling, and people couldn't take their eyes off her. But not everyone loved that kind of energy. Don Cornelius had a very clean, polished idea of how he wanted Soul Train to look. He liked things to be organized, rehearsed, and predictable. Demita's wild and free style didn't match that vision. Even though her dancing excited the crowd and brought new attention to the show, it caused tension behind the scenes. Don wanted control, and Demita's style felt like chaos to him. Still, no one could deny that she had something special. She brought fire to the show, and no matter how hard others tried, they couldn't copy her style. It was all her own. Then there was Tyrone Proctor, another dancer who became part of Soul Train's history.
So what I did was I saved up what little money I had, told my father, told my mother, I'm going to go to LA. My father told me over my dead body, I told him you have to supply the gun because I'm leaving.
Tyrone was known for a very smooth and emotional style of dance called whacking. But his journey wasn't easy. He danced during a time when being different, especially being openly gay, or dancing in a way that wasn't traditional, was not accepted by many people. Tyrone didn't always talk about the difficulties, but they were real. He had to work hard to earn respect in a world that didn't always want to give it to him. Just being himself was a fight. Tyrone also wasn't afraid to speak the truth. He said that dancers on Soul Train were not treated very well. They didn't get paid much, even though the show made a lot of money. But even with the problems, being on the show helped Tyrone's career. His talent was seen around the world, and he got chances to travel and dance in many countries, like China and Argentina. That would have been hard to do without the exposure from Soul Train. Tyrone's relationship with Don Cornelius had its ups and downs. He respected Don for giving him the chance to be on the show, but things weren't always friendly between them. For example, one time Tyrone won a car on another show, American Bandstand, which was a rival of Soul Train.
It must be 3 or 4 years since Richard began to tell me about the music that you people were making.
He was excited, but then he realized he couldn't afford the taxes on the prize. So he asked Don Cornelius for help, even though Don didn't like that he had gone on the other show. But Don surprised him. He paid the taxes. That showed that even when there was tension, Don could still show support when it really mattered. Another dancer who made history was Shabba Do.
You know, when you're part of a group and you try to start over again, it's pretty hard. Yeah, they knew me as Shabba Do from the Lockers, but who was Shabba Do?
He helped create a dance group called The Lockers. They came up with a dance style called locking, full of sharp, quick movements and cool poses. This style became very popular and changed dance forever. People loved it, but Soul Train didn't always know what to do with that kind of energy. Shabba Do felt like the show was using the group, but not treating them right. He even joked that they were getting paid in chicken, not money. Things got so tense that he decided to leave. But leaving Soul Train wasn't a mistake. It was a step toward something bigger. Shabba Do became a movie star, playing the lead role of Ozone in the hit dance movies Breakin' and Breakin' 2, Electric Boogaloo. He also became a famous choreographer, working with big stars like Madonna. He helped with her Who's That Girl tour. So even though he left Soul Train, his dance career kept growing. In fact, it got even bigger after he left. Then came Rosie Perez. Rosie came to Soul Train from the East Coast and brought a completely different energy.
Rosie's first big break was Soul Train, and we have the video. Let's see how you did it. Oh, look at that! I love this.
Her style was fast, loud, and full of attitude. She moved differently than the dancers from the West Coast, where the show was based. People noticed her right away. She didn't blend in, she stood out. But Rosie didn't always feel welcome. She was a proud Latina, and she felt like her background and culture weren't getting the same respect as others on the show. Things came to a head when she had a bad moment with Don Cornelius. She felt he treated her in a way that was disrespectful and even grabbed her roughly. In the heat of the moment, she threw a bucket of chicken at him. After that, she was kicked off the show. Don Cornelius didn't just have issues with dancers. He also had problems with some of the artists who performed on Soul Train, especially Rick James. Rick James was wild, loud, and full of personality. Don, who liked things to be controlled and smooth, didn't know how to handle him. In interviews, Don often looked annoyed when Rick was around. Their arguments were sometimes caught on camera. In one interview, Don criticized Rick's crazy behavior. Rick just smiled and said, "Unpredictable gets people talking, Don. Isn't that why you invited me here?" It was clear they didn't get along. Things got worse when Rick James went on air and said that Soul Train was stuck in the past. He said the show needed to feature more modern and edgy music, like his own. Don didn't like that at all. He felt disrespected and started slowly pushing Rick off the show. He didn't make a big scene about it, but people noticed that Rick wasn't invited back as often. Don also didn't get along with hip-hop. Even though rap music was becoming popular in the late 1970s and early 1980s, Don didn't like it.
And from New York, let's welcome the super hot rap crew as they join us to do their latest single.
He didn't understand it and didn't think it fit with the style of Soul Train. When hip-hop groups like Public Enemy or Big Daddy Kane came on the show, things felt strange. Don acted uncomfortable and tried too hard to stay cool, which made it awkward for viewers. One of the biggest moments was when the Sugar Hill Gang came on Soul Train after their hit Rapper's Delight.
Do today is I'm gonna get a fly girl, gonna get some spank and drive off in a death OJ.
Don introduced them, but he didn't seem excited. During the interview, he used a cold and almost rude tone. It was clear he didn't like what they were doing, even though they were making history. Another rapper, Curtis Blow, had a tough experience too. He performed his hit song, The Breaks, which was very popular.
You can't explain why you claim the cat. Marvel sends you a whopping bill.
But after his performance, Don said on air that he didn't understand why people liked rap. Curtis later said that moment hurt him deeply. He said it felt like Don didn't respect him or the music. Reports say that Don didn't even want Curtis on the show, but network bosses made him do it because rap was becoming too big to ignore. Curtis said that Don only accepted hip-hop when the music industry forced it on him. Even in the 1990s, when rap music had become the most popular style in the country, Don still didn't fully support it. He let rappers on the show, but he didn't hide the fact that he didn't like their music. On February 1st, 2012, something very sad happened. Don Cornelius was found dead in his home in Sherman Oaks, California. He had shot himself in the head. He was 75 years old. People all over the world were shocked. His death was not only sad, but also confusing for many people. What made things even stranger was what Don left behind. He had 2 life insurance policies that added up to $300,000. But the person he named to get all that money was his ex-wife. This was the same woman he had once been accused of abusing. People started asking questions. Why would he leave money to someone he had a bad history with? Some thought he still cared about her. Others believed there was more to the story, something that didn't add up. In the months before he died, Don told a few people that he was in pain. He said he felt like he was being tormented by things from his past. He didn't give many details, but people close to him said he seemed very troubled. He spoke about secrets that were bothering him. Some of these secrets may have been very serious. He didn't say exactly what they were, but it seemed like they were eating away at him. There were also scary things Don spoke about before he died. Some reports said he had terrible nightmares. In these dreams, he felt like something evil was chasing him. He also feared that someone might try to get back at him for something he did in the past. These thoughts made him feel even worse. His mind was not at peace. There were even rumors that the police were looking into more than just the abuse case. Some people online talked about other things like forced sex, mental control, and even hidden videos from the Soul Train days. These rumors were never confirmed. Most big news stations didn't talk about them. It was like someone wanted them to disappear. To this day, many questions remain, and we may never get the full truth.